Well, we've got Michael Burns from the Greenville News. He covers Clemson recruiting. And most important, former editor of the Tiger newspaper. We're looking at one right now. So thanks, Michael, for being with us. We appreciate it.
No problem, man. I'm kind of sick. I hope I sound all right.
Oh, you're all good. Tell us a little bit about what you do for the Greenville News.
Well, I wash the dishes, deliver the paper, anything I'm told to do, I do. My main beat is Clemson recruiting, and I'm maybe 75% football, but cover Clemson recruiting and high school sports on a weekly basis.
Michael, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Just tell us a little bit about the recruiting class that Clemson has putting together this year, obviously with National Signing Day next Wednesday. A couple of commitments it looks like have leaned Clemson. Just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think right now they're ranked number 13 in the nation by ESPN. It's similar to other recruiting services rankings. It looks good. No coach comes out on signing day and talks about being disappointed. But it looks like Clemson's filled needs. Receiver, particularly, is a position they needed some guys, and they have some talent coming in. I guess there are basically three prospects that I can identify that we're kind of still waiting on, and where they fall will ultimately determine the final ranking and everything. But, I think you have to be more than satisfied if you're a Clemson fan.
Right. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, the biggest prize. What can you tell us about the other prospects? Obviously, a wide receiver loaded class. Everyone knows that with lots of talent coming in at that position. What can you say about those players?
Yeah, lots of talent. I think the thing about the receivers is the early enrollees. You got Damari Kitt and Artavis Scott already on campus. Of course, got a commitment here recently from Trevion Thompson. Kyron Priester, another receiver on campus. You lose Sammy Watkins and Martavis Bryant. You need some guys who can come in and be capable to contribute immediately. Of course, you get Sharon Peake back from injury, but Clemson's going to need other receivers, and I'll be surprised if they don't need one of these freshmen to come in and perform immediately if they're going to have the kind of season they want to have.
Right, and talk about, I think it's the defensive end from, I believe, from Alabama or Georgia, who's leaning either Auburn or Clemson. Talk about where do you think he's going to land on signing day?
Yeah, we're probably talking about Andrew Williams.
Right.
It does seem to be down to Auburn or Clemson. Clemson coach Dabo Sweeney and Marion Hobby visited him in home last night. If I had to, you talk to these guys, they're going through this internal struggle themselves and talking with their family about where they're going to ultimately seal their fate for the next several years and in a way for the rest of their lives. You get a lot of standard answers when you talk to them. I'm still thinking, considering, trying to weigh the options. But if I had to make a prediction right now, I do think Andrew Williams is going to pick Auburn, but I don't think that's settled right now. And, it's Clemson or Auburn. He could take a visit to Georgia this weekend, but this decision is coming down to Clemson or Auburn. If I had to guess, right now I'd guess Auburn. Clemson, there's been a few battles just last year. Was basically down to Clemson or Auburn for Carl Lawson and Montravius Adams, Georgia guys who ended up going to Auburn. Of course, Auburn also signed Elijah Daniel, defensive end out of Indiana, who was committed to Clemson at one point. But, that kind of thing's not going away, particularly with Auburn, the kind of year they had. These guys that, you recruit top talent, you're going to go against the big players in the end and take it to the end. And that's what Clemson's doing right now.
We're talking with Michael Burns from the Greenville News. Clemson recruiting. What can you tell us about Richard Yeargin III, who recently decommitted from Notre Dame, appears to be leaning Clemson at this point?
Yeah, he's a tall, lean guy. Quick, but there's Vic Beasley. He's not the prototypical NFL-sized defensive end as far as weight, and Richard Yeargin would probably be in that kind of mold. I do think he's going to end up committing to Clemson. Interestingly, his school, university school down in Florida, sent out a press release to local reporters just announcing their signing day ceremony and time for planning purposes, and they listed him as a Clemson commitment in that release they sent out everywhere. So, that's just another sign that, lets you know, I'll be quite surprised if he doesn't announce for Clemson on signing day.
Right, and what's it going to take for Clemson? I think it's in the 11th, 12th right now. What's it going to take, you think, to get them in the top 10 for recruiting in 2014? And talk a little bit about the football schedule that just came out. Do you think it's set up pretty favorably for the Tigers next year?
Well, first of all, even as a recruiting analyst, I would tell you not to read too much into those recruiting rankings team-wise at the end of the year. Clemson has a class that's not, maxing out on the number of scholarships you can award on a year-to-year basis just because of the number of scholarships they have, room to give out this year. There's 85 scholarship limit total on the team. And I don't know if, even if they land the guys who are left out there, if that's going to put them in the top 10 or not. But, certainly it would also depend on what other guys do here and the other teams do here in the closing days. But I don't see Clemson falling below, top 15 in anybody's measure. And landing a couple of these guys would sure inch them towards the top 10. Schedule-wise, I don't know, man. Let me get through Super Bowl and signing day. Then we look to next year. I can't look that far yet.
Right. What can you tell us about Hunter Renfrow, who announced the commitment last night on Twitter and referred to Clemson as wide receiver university? Any scouting on him that you've done that you can tell the fans about?
Yeah, I watched him a lot at the Shrine Bowl practices and in the game that Saturday in December. That was the first time he ever played any receiver. He's been one of the top athletes in the state as a quarterback down at Socastee near Myrtle Beach. Option quarterback, ran for a lot of yards. But I think one of the first plays in the Shrine Bowl, he lined up in the slot and they threw him a pass and he stuck to his hands like glue. He'll be very interesting to follow and see what kind of player he is. He had a scholarship offer at Appalachian State and Wofford, I think, among others. And he wanted to be at Clemson, and the receiver tradition that Clemson has established, had to be enticing to him, and it'll be fun to see what he turns into.
Right. Well, Michael, we really appreciate the time and keep up the good work with the Greenville News. Thanks for coming on such a short notice, and we'll definitely get you back on in the next couple of weeks where we can, go more in depth about the signing class. But I guess you never know until you get them on paper. And keep up the great work with the Greenville News, and we'll get you back on.
Hey, thanks, man.
All right, thank you. That's Michael Burns from the Greenville News. He covers Clemson recruiting, and we really appreciate him giving us some insight about some of these recruits.